I'm Mentor Mama, and today we are going to be talking about the story behind a very impactful ministry called Love You More Bracelets, and how a life-changing event helped one family learn more about the Lord's promises for us, how to rest in His peace, and to continue a legacy through colorful acts of kindness. Our guests today, Mike and Michele Coletta from Love You More Bracelets, will be talking about their ministry inspired by their daughter, Makayla, and their journey in helping others. Mike and Michele Coletta are a homeschool family from Wadsworth, Illinois. It was during an unexpected cancer diagnosis of their oldest daughter, Makayla, that their comfortable lives changed. As they stepped into unfamiliar territory through doctor's visits, test results, and disappointment, they learned to trust God on a whole new level. Through heartache and pain, they realized that God does not always answer our prayers the way we think He should. They did, however, learn that His promises are true. We just need to be still and obey. They have learned firsthand through the word to see light in the darkness. Please welcome Mike and Michele. Thank you so
Hi,
much.
how are you?
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Great to be here.
You know, I have had the privilege of meeting Michele in person.
Yes.
At our Moms Group ministry. And it was hearing your story firsthand that I just knew right then and there that I wanted to share it with the Coffee and Bible Time community. You know, what you,
I remember that.
yeah, what you both have endured is not what any parent would want to go through. But just in hearing your story and just learning that when you're grounded in your faith, when you can attempt to see God's bigger picture and trust in His promise of life everlasting, that you realize God's grace can and does see you through. And so why don't we just start out by having you tell us about your family and Makayla and the story behind what changed your path of life.
Sure.
Yeah, so we are a family of 5, and I homeschool. We're a homeschool family and business owners. Our youngest son, his name is Christian, and he's 9, and Isabella is our middle child, and she's 11, soon to be 12. And our eldest daughter, whom is the person that we are here to talk about today, is Makayla. And she would be 13 right now. And so Makayla was our firstborn, and simply just the most delightful child we could have ever been blessed with as new parents.
Yeah.
She was just the sweetest little girl, loving and caring, giving, and just a joy to be around. I never really had to discipline Makayla. She just got it. You know, she just got rules, and she knew how to obey. We called her wise behind her years, or beyond her years, at like 4.
Oh,
She
wow.
was just my biggest helper, my biggest cheerleader, and just the one that would come sit next to you and just want to hug you and want to talk to you. I mean, she just was so easy, to be honest. And we just loved her so much.
I considered Makayla kind of a daddy's girl. Often I'd be coming home from work and she'd call me and come out on the front porch and wait for me to pull in. And she would be waving with a big smile, run up to my car and give me a big hug. You know, a lot of times she called me at work just to see how I'm doing when I'd be home from work. And no matter how busy I was, I would always make sure that I'd take that call, because she just had that loving, enduring kind of personality that you just enjoyed being around. And so it was always a joy. It never felt like I'm tired or I don't have time. It just always, I always made time for her. So,
Yeah.
but in April of 2019, everything kind of changed in our life. We consider ourselves very blessed with health, and we were doing well in our careers. And but Makayla came to us in April and said, I have a little pain in my side. And we didn't think much of it. We thought maybe she just pulled a muscle. And then later that afternoon, she developed a fever and started saying it was hurting worse. So we decided, let's take her to the doctor. And they ended up ordering a CT scan. And about midnight, the doctors came in and told us that we found a mass. We need to leave by ambulance right now to Chicago, and she needs to have this removed. And the hospital that we're taking you to has a good oncology department.
Yeah.
So we went from literally thinking maybe the worst, her appendix, to possibly a cancer diagnosis. So this totally catapulted us in a different direction. The next day she had surgery, and they diagnosed her with stage 3 cancer. While the original report was very optimistic, I remember one of the first conversations with the oncologist was, you're very fortunate that your daughter has this type of cancer because it's very treatable, and she should be done with treatment in 6 months, and it should never come back. And so we left feeling very optimistic that, okay, this is going to be really hard, but in no way did we think it was going to be something that could take her. So we, in a few days, we, after the surgery, a couple weeks later, she started radiation and then started her treatment plan of chemo. And after the first scan, there was some spots in the lungs that appeared, and they weren't 100% sure at that point if that was cancer. But then the second scan that we had 6 weeks later showed that there definitely was progression. So we decided we needed to change hospitals and go to a larger cancer center. And so we did that, and Makayla started the hardest chemo you can do. And it was three drugs a day for 5 days straight. You stay in the hospital. And then pretty much at that point, we were living out of the hospital because her counts would drop and we couldn't leave. So they had to keep her pumped with antibiotics to make sure that she didn't get an infection. And that just changed everything.
Well, in the middle of going back and forth to the hospital, Makayla had said that she wanted to go to church. Tell us about that and the blessing that came out of that.
Yeah, so that was a cool experience. And in fact, this is the reason that Love You More Bracelets exists, is this connection. So we went to church, and normally Makayla, prior to her diagnosis, would go to Sunday school, and but she wanted to sit with Michele and I, and so we were excited for that. Of course, we wanted her right next to us all the time, but that week IRIF was there. So IRIF is an organization. It's Indian Rural Evangelical Fellowship, and it's an orphanage in India that they were doing a presentation. A man named Trey Moore, the director of IRIF, was there and talking about this organization. And so Makayla and I and Michele were all moved by the presentation. You know, there's over 2,000 students that attend this orphanage. Some live there, some don't. They come for the day, but they are all fed, clothed, medical care is taken care of. And what's unique is IRIF teaches them the gospel. So in India, many of the people do not believe in Jesus. I have heard statistics that over 70 million people in India cannot write or read. And so they don't have the opportunities like we do here in the States. So after the presentation, Makayla leaned over and told us that she wanted to give her allowance money to the kids at IRIF. And so that was just like her. She always thought of others. And I'm like, are you sure you want to give all of it to them? And she said, yes, I do. So, and on our way out of church, some elders had pulled us aside, Michele and I, and asked us, hey, how's Makayla doing? So we told them that unfortunately the last couple scans did not go our way, and we really need to see a miracle, and we're kind of running out of options. And so they said, well, we're going to reach out to some people and we're going to get some prayer going for Makayla. So unbeknownst to us, they knew Trey and knew that Trey had seen some amazing healings in India. So Trey had texted me a couple days later and said, I heard about your daughter's condition and I'd love to come over and meet her and pray for her. And it was kind of funny because I said, well, actually, Makayla wants to meet you too, because she has some money that she wants to give to your organization. So within a couple weeks, Trey was at our house.
So you can imagine Makayla being so excited. I think it was about a week later, Trey Moore was at her house sitting in her living room, and Makayla was able to actually hand over her allowance to Trey. And she was so excited because she knew where that money was going exactly. Like, these kids needed it the most. So she was so excited. And then Trey, of course, prayed for Makayla, which was just a sweet prayer. We were all in the room, all 5 of us, plus Trey. So that was just a wonderful experience for us to have as a family.
Yeah.
And when you're going through that, it just means the world to you when someone comes over and just says, I want to pray for your daughter. So it was just very heartwarming and touching. But, in the conversation with Trey, he went on to say all of these wonderful things about IRIF and the culture there. Especially with the kids and the women, they love to wear colorful things and like outfits and jewelry. So I think that was like ding, ding, ding for Makayla. She was making bracelets at that time in the hospital, and she learned to make beautiful beaded bracelets in her downtime. And so she had a collection of them sitting in her room. So she went straight to her room and grabbed like a handful of them and put them in a bag and handed that over as well to Trey and said, I want you to give these to the children. I want them to have them. So Trey's like, absolutely. I'm actually going there in 6 weeks. I'll hand them over myself. And so that gave us the idea of, well, let's make more, because if he is going, and can carry small little packages of bracelets, let's make a night of it and make more. So that's what we did. We spent an evening as a family and made probably another couple dozen of bracelets. And I remember that night, it was fun. And like, we were laughing and, sorry. It was the first time in a long time Makayla actually had fun and laughed with her family making these bracelets, because she knew where they were going. And she loved doing things for people. She loved making gifts. That was her heart's desire, is to make something for everybody, especially for holidays. She wanted to know what color was their favorite and what size were they and what were their interests. I want to make it for them. And so that was one part of the Love You More bracelets. The idea was that we wanted that to be a part of everyone else's experience, that they have fun.
Yes.
So.
And it's so beautiful that everything that she was going through herself, she was thinking of others.
Yeah.
And those children and the orphanage. And and just how God orchestrated you being in that church service at that time. And
Yeah. We look back at that and still are in awe of how it all came together. We were just talking about it the other day that, had we not gone to church that day, first off, or if Makayla didn't sit with us and be moved by the presentation, and if the elder of the church didn't reach out to Trey, none of this would have all came together, and it all did seamlessly. And I think the other thing that's beautiful is, I think a lot of times as people or Christians, we wait for everything to be kind of lined up in our life for us to step out and help others. And Makayla was a true testimony to, you don't need to wait. You can do simple things for people, no matter what your circumstances. You don't have to wait for enough money in the bank account. You don't have to wait for everybody's at, in a good place in your life. You can step out and help, even in the simplest way. And that's what she taught us. She taught us to do that, because we could have easily said, well, helping another organization right now, we can't really fit that in amongst cancer treatment, but that was in her heart. She knew she could do something, and she did it, and that's been a beautiful thing.
yeah, she's amazing. Well, tell us about what was the next step in treatment at this point.
Yeah. So after that fun day, Makayla had to go back and start treatment again. And the next couple rounds of treatment, she tolerated them well, but the next scan that came back wasn't good. And then just after Christmas, they ordered another CT scan, and this one was kind of a big deal. And it didn't go good. So we sat down with the doctors after the scan. Fortunately, they waited till after Christmas. We had an amazing Christmas with Makayla, and they said the cancer spread throughout her body, and that there's no other option that we would want to try. That anything known to work, we've tried, and it's not working. And so take her home. So we did. We took her home.
What was going through your mind when you heard the doctor's report?
Honestly, I was saying that's not true. God's bigger than this. That's honestly what was going through my mind. Apart from the hurt, and that report is really hard to hear, I was more reflecting it of, that's not my God. That's not what he does. Because we were so on the path of, he's going to heal her, and you guys just sit back and watch, that honestly was going through my mind. And then, when we get home, it was a different story.
Yeah. I think the car ride was probably the hardest, because Makayla wanted to know what the scan said. And so we're trying to process this, because literally they sat us down a room apart and said, all what they said. And so we get in the car, and Makayla's like, so how'd it go? How'd the scan? What's the results? And all we told her was, Makayla, it didn't go good. And so she didn't ask any more questions. It's almost like that was what she needed to know, and all she wanted to know. And honestly, Michelle and I didn't even have a chance to talk about it, because literally we had to walk from one room to the next, get her and take her to the car.
Take her home.
So we got home, and I think that's when reality set in, that, like, what is going on? What do we do now? What does this look like? And so in some regards, we were relieved because Makayla towards the end hated being at the hospital. I mean, it was, you're confined to one room. She's hooked up to machines. She didn't want to be there, and we didn't want to be there, but we knew we had to do this. And so I feel like there was some relief in the sense that she doesn't have to go back there. She doesn't have to have any more pokes. She doesn't have to have any more scans or transfusions or anything else. And so I think that was kind of a relief, but we weren't thinking we were there. We did not, we just thought, okay, if this round doesn't work, they're going to come up with something else. Like we didn't realize we were at that end. So
Michele, you had shared a story with me that was so heart touching. Was wondering if you'd be willing to share
Yeah.
About after Makayla passed.
Bella's dream.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was so. Bella and Makayla were best friends. They did everything together. They would sleep in the same room, although they had their separate rooms. They would sleep in the same room every single night and have their sleepovers, and they just got along so well. So the day that Makayla passed, it was a sudden thing. We weren't expecting her to just, the Lord to take her. So after coming home from the hospital and all of what that traumatic experience was, we had to sit Bella and Christian down and say, Makayla's not coming home. She passed away. So that was really hard for Bella to hear, because she woke up with Makayla. Makayla was here and now she's not. And all of these prayers that we're saying about healing, and Makayla's going to be better and the Lord loves us, and which is all still true. Bella was very mad that night, and she started screaming and yelling all of these things like, God, you didn't let me say goodbye to my sister, and you said you were going to heal her, and you didn't. And other things that came out of her mouth, which are just so honest, that she was heartbroken. She was angry. And we had never seen her like that before.
no, that's not how
And that
Bella is.
Bella she's quiet and sweet, but she's not angry. So we couldn't say much, but other than Makayla's with Jesus. And that's a good thing. She's healed. She's finally got her healing. It's just not here. So we went to bed that night. We all slept in our room because we didn't want to be apart from each other. So Bella and Christian slept on a mat on our room, and we have a first floor master in our home. So we're, a room away from the kitchen. And so the next morning, as tough as it was to get up, we were all sitting around. I think we were on the front porch, and Bella just I think she was kind of like making circles on the ground or just making a drawing. And she goes, I had a dream about Makayla last night. And I said, oh, really? What was it? And she goes, well, I got up out of bed and I started to walk towards the kitchen, and I looked towards the front door and I saw Makayla. And she had long hair, and she was wearing a pretty white gown, and she had almost like a belt around her, and she was wearing sandals. And she also was wearing like flowers on her head, like a crown, but it wasn't a crown like a princess would wear. It was a crown like that laid flat like a wreath. And it was pretty flowers, Mom. It was white flowers, and there was gold. She was very specific about that. There was gold in there, Mom, because it was really sparkly and pretty. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's wonderful, Bella. And then she said that Makayla walked up to her and gave her a hug. And I was like, oh my gosh, Bella, that's wonderful. How do you feel? And she goes, but wait, she was holding a man's hand. And I thought immediately, oh, that must have been Daddy. And I said, well, who was the man? She goes, well, I don't know. I couldn't see him because he was so bright. His face was glowing. And he too was wearing like a white gown and like a belt around himself, but I couldn't see his face because it was almost like a bluish, like bright white color. And I was like, oh my gosh, Paul, I think that was Jesus. I think Jesus brought Makayla to you and gave you that gift of saying goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
And that afterward, the Lord has just brought scripture after scripture of how we look in glory, how we're dressed, and how we are given a crown that we throw at his feet. And also how when Jesus transfigures himself, this is the glory that you see.
Mm-hmm.
And Bella never knew any of that. She, we go to church and she knows the Bible stories, but she never knew any of those little details.
Sure.
So when the Lord revealed these scriptures to me, I was just in awe, and I had to just be in just praise and thankful that God showed that to Bella, and it was real. I mean, it was such a vision for Bella to hold on to that we latch on and we can envision it as well, and has brought us so much peace. So that day that Bella told me the dream, I had her draw what she wrote or what she saw.
Oh.
So she drew the dress with the crown and the little slippers. And it's just so precious that we believe that Bella was completely healed of her hurt because of that vision and that dream. Because even in the vision, she was wearing the same PJs she went to bed in, she said. So it was almost like it wasn't a dream, it was actually a vision. And Jesus was here and Makayla was here.
Absolutely.
And Bella was able to see it. That veil was lifted so Bella could see that.
Yes. Without a doubt. It's incredible. And so beautiful. Shows how much, Jesus loves us and loves Bella. And oh, wow. Well, tell us about, what you've learned about yourself during and after and on this journey.
For me, well, I mean, there's so much we learned, and we're still, in a sense, peeling back the layers of what we learned through this. But I think one thing I learned is I had a lot of pride that I didn't even know I had. As a business owner, I started a company when I was really young, so I had been in a lot of situations and experienced a lot of different things. And over the years, you always have a plan, and you have a plan B and a plan C, and you always come up with a resolution to a concern or a problem. But when Makayla got sick, initially I treated it like I do everything else, weigh our options and, try to gather up as much information as you can to make good decisions. And we did all that. And no matter how hard I tried, we couldn't find a solution. I mean, there was a point where I had 6 hospitals across the US looking into Makayla's case, trying to get some kind of other solution. We were praying. We looked into all sorts of different types of prayer, just trying to find something, just grabbing at anything that seemed to make sense. And I couldn't get it done. And I think after Makayla passed, I really felt like it wasn't my job, that this nothing I could have done would have changed the outcome.
Mhm.
And that was really hard at first to realize. But the more I kind of let go and really just give it to God, and I mean that in the truest form, just literally give it to God, because people will say that, and I think it's almost a cliche at times for people, like, oh, I'm going to give this to God, but then you're still doing what you need to do behind the scenes and thinking it's going to move God in some way. But truly giving it to him and understanding that I am not in control. I am completely not in control of this. I can do my part as a dad. I can do my part as the caretaker of her. But after that, it's up to him. And I think also we learned that she's not ours. Um, she's his. And we've been blessed to take care of her as parents, but ultimately she's his. And that's a hard thing to let go of,
Mhm.
because she was so good and she was perfect in our eyes. And so just submitting and learning to submit. And yeah.
Yeah, I think what I've learned about myself throughout this whole journey is that I didn't know God to be God the way that he is now. And I just thought that God, he's always there, and yes, he knows me and he loves me, but I can't access him maybe in the way that um like an actual person. So this journey has really brought me into diving into more seeking him more deeply, and knowing that his word is true and alive, and that he's always here, and he does want to hear from me. He wants me to talk to him, and he wants me to worship him. And that's what part of why he created me. And there's so many good things that he did put inside me that I should love myself, and I never did. And my perspective of him is so much more raw and deeper. And that's truly what I've learned. And he has our daughter, and of course I want to know what she's doing. I want to know more about heaven. I want to know all these things. And so I've got my hands on a lot of good books, and that wasn't me prior to this. So
That's beautiful. And clearly, God has been at work in both of your lives in a mighty way, walking with you every step of the way on this journey. And what's so cool now, I want you to talk about is your nonprofit organization that you've started called Love You More Bracelets in honor of Makayla. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So a few months after Makayla passed, Michele and I decided that we really need to continue what we experienced that night when Trey came over and prayed for Makayla, and we got to build bracelets as a family. We just had such a good time in it. We just kept going back to that and saying, if Makayla was here, we'd be building more bracelets. I know she would love to see that and continue that. And so that's what really sparked this idea that, okay, she's not here with us, but she's definitely with us and we wanted to continue that experience. So that's what started Love You More Bracelets. And so what it is we're a 501c3, and we build kits, and it's everything you need to build 7 bracelets. And then there's the kit that you get will have all the contents you need to do that. Also in the kit, there's information about Makayla and the connection between Makayla and IRIF and why we're helping IRIF. And then there's information about IRIF as well. And you as a family will build these bracelets, and then you ship them to us. And then we send them off every quarter to India, and all the proceeds go to benefit these kids. So also they get the bracelets, which is amazing because they love it. When they know that they're coming, they get very excited, and they're lining up waiting for these bracelets to get to their village. But it's also a combination of that, but it's also then you get to spend time with your family. And Michele can talk to you more about how like church ministries have reached out to us, and moms groups and children's ministries of churches have done this, and they just all report back how much fun they had building these bracelets, and it's just bringing the community together.
Yeah, so I think since we've started this, it's almost been a year. I've been in contact with a few ministries at church that have just latched on to this whole, the meaning behind it and the whole process of it. And they find it fun, and they find it just wonderful how they can participate to keep Makayla's honor alive and her story alive. And we've met a lot of great people like you, Ellen. That's how I met you, Ellen. And so thankful for that day. And the Lord just keeps on blessing us with different avenues of experiences and divine appointments, really, or what they are, because we were able to meet a lot of great people that are just supportive and understanding. So we are welcoming more of that, and we pray that the Lord brings us into more of that, because it is Makayla's heart that we want to keep alive, and also to benefit the orphanage there in India, where her heart was also. So yeah, that's a good thing.
It's an incredible, absolutely incredible thing in so many ways. Just to share with our listeners, our mom's group receives, so you get like a box that has the kit with the beads and the string that you make the bracelet with, and you can sit together with your group and make these bracelets. And there's joy in doing that together. There's joy in learning about Makayla's story and how God has used his transforming power to make an impact on IREF and these kids that are in the orphanage. And like you said, the colorful bracelets that brighten their lives, and then also the sharing of the gospel message, which is invaluable. And it's just amazing how all of what Makayla has done has fueled the sharing of the gospel to hundreds of children, probably thousands, and it's just going to keep on growing. So how can people help support Love You More Bracelets, and where can people locate them?
Sure. Well, we have a website. We just officially launched a month ago, and it's www.loveyoummorebracelets.com. And on there, you're going to find a lot of information about the story behind Love You More Bracelets, a lot of information on IRIF and the impact that Love You More Bracelets has on the children there. You'll also see a lot of pictures of Makayla, the bracelets being built. We have an amazing team of volunteers that every time, so all the kits are handmade first off. So we don't buy them in bulk and things like that. We're hand making every single kit
in our basement.
So very ground level, but we will get
literally.
We will get, 20, 30 volunteers at each of these box building, get-togethers. And we have fun. We'll throw on music. The kids will be running around. In fact, the kids are probably more productive than the adults. So it's pretty funny, actually. We joke because at first we thought the kids would would not really get involved, but
Yeah.
I think that adults do
They
more
work
talking.
faster because the adults like to talk, but
Yeah.
they're all handmade with love and in our basement. And so we have our website, and we also have an Instagram channel. It's Love You More Bracelets. So you can find us there too. But if you're not on social media, the website is just, it's universal for everybody to find us. And there you can get kits. And we also have merchandise now. We have a logo that is a butterfly. And so we have little merchandise that if you want to also support our organization, those proceeds as well will go to the children at IREF. I think we have a beanie, we have a pop socket and a journal.
Yeah. Journal's
And-
really nice. Very nice.
And we
Yeah.
also have handmade bracelets that you could purchase and just keep for yourself that are added on to, I think you can buy them separately, and there's also different packages that you can buy. So
Yeah.
it's all on our shop in the website. So that's how you can locate us and support us. And we would greatly appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. I just want
Package.
to.
I was gonna say we package everything too. So if you want to give it as a gift, you can do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And we've had church ministries buy 20 boxes so they can pass them out at their church. So there's a lot of opportunities to help. And so you don't have to build bracelets if you don't want to, but we would encourage you to do it because we've had fun every time we've done it. So
Yeah. Oh, I just want to encourage all of our listeners, please check out their website, help support the Love You More bracelets in doing so. It's honoring Makayla, the beautiful life and sweet girl that she is, and also just helping IREF and the orphanage there. So check that out. Before we go, I just wanted to ask you real quickly our normal 3 questions, and especially just because I know God's word has really sustained you through all of this. Tell us what Bible you use and what translation it is.
So I'm currently using, it's called the Inspire Praise Bible. It's a Bible for coloring and creative journaling, actually. And it's the NLT version, and it's just every page, or not maybe every page, but every other page has a little picture that you can color with pencils. And that's what I highly suggest if this Bible is for you and you purchase it, to have colored pencils, because they don't bleed through the pages.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a Bible for those that need to journal as they visit the Lord and read his word, or just have a therapeutic thing to do with their hand and coloring, and just make it your own, design and colors. And all the pictures really do reflect the verse of what it is relating to. So it's been fun for me. And I think they come in purple or blue, the Bibles. So
Awesome. We will put a link down in our show notes for that.
yeah.
Do you have any other favorite journaling supplies that you like to use?
I like the colored pencils, and then I do have these little thin pens. I think I don't remember the name, but they're felt tip and they're fine for my journal. I don't really write with them in my Bible, but I do like those for my journal. I can give you the actual name when I go to
you can. Yep, send it over and we'll put it down in the show notes.
Okay.
And then just lastly, what is your favorite app or website for Bible study tools?
Yeah, for me, I use the Uverse
We
app.
both do. Yeah.
I really like that just because you usually have your phone with you. And I like the Bible plans. And then just having the word at your fingertips anytime. You can save various scriptures. A lot of times I do screenshots of various scriptures just so I can scroll back and look at them and meditate on them. But I like it because, in between coming and going, you can always have that instead of, jumping on other things. You can you have that at your fingertips. So
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a great suggestion. I never thought of taking a screenshot
Oh,
of your
yeah.
verse. That's a great idea. Well, Mike and Michele, thank you so much for being here to share your amazing story of Makayla and how she's inspired the Love You More bracelets. It's just been a joy to meet you and just to continue the conversation. And I just want you to know too, I know there are people out there listening that very well could be going through the same difficult, challenging situation that you've had to go through. And I know it will be just so much of an encouragement um, to those people. And again, just how you have clung to God's word and your faith and has really seen you through. So thank you so much for being willing
Thank
to
you.
share your
Thank
story.
you for having us on and letting us share our story. And there's so much to say. And I think the Lord uses us in like ways, like you just said, that people can latch onto and that need to hear it. So we're
Yes.
always welcome to share what we have gone through. So thank you for the opportunity.
thank you.
Yes, you're most welcome. To our listeners, you will find the links to everything that we talked about here today in our show notes. You could also head over to our blog where we will also be posting this as a blog story, and you can share comments on this episode with us there as well. And finally, head over to the Coffee and Bible Time website for our prayer journals that will help guide and document your prayer life at coffeeandbibletime.com. Thank you so much for joining us today on our podcast. We love you all. Have a blessed day.